was 3 days away from retirement when I picked her up. That is the part I keep coming back to. 3 more shifts. After 38 years, driving a cab through streets, I knew better than my own apartment. I was almost done. My knees hurt when I climbed out from behind the wheel. My eyes watered in the glare of oncoming headlights. I had started forgetting cross streets I used to know by instinct. My daughter kept telling me it was time. "Sell the medallion, Dad," she said. "Sleep at night for once." She was right. Everyone was right. Still, I took the night shift that week. One last stretch. I told myself it was for the money, but that was only half true. The truth was, I didn't know who I was without the meter ticking in front of me. That night, the rain had started around midnight and never really let up. Not a hard rain, just steady, miserable. The kind that turned the city into reflections and made every traffic light bleed across the windshield. By 2:30, the streets were mostly empty. I had the heater running low, an old jazz station playing through static, and a paper cup of coffee cooling in the holder beside me. I had just decided to call it early when I saw her. She was standing under a street lamp on the corner of Waverly and 9th, one hand raised slightly, like she had been waiting a long time, and did not want to seem impatient. I almost drove past. Not because of anything she did. She looked ordinary enough. A woman in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. Dark hair pinned back, pale coat, small black purse held in both hands. But there was something about the way she stood there in the rain. She was dry. I remember that very clearly now. The street around her shone black with water. Rain hit the pavement, bounced off parked cars, ran in little silver rivers along the curb. But she looked as if she had stepped out of a photograph. I pulled over anyway. She opened the back door and slid in quietly. No rush, no apology. There was a faint smell of cold air and something old, like paper, kept too long in a drawer. "Where to?" I asked. For a moment she didn't answer. I looked at her in the rear view mirror. Her face was turned toward the window, watching the rain crawl down the glass. Then she said,
"Northfield Cemetery, please."
I glanced back again. At this hour?
"If it isn't too much trouble."
Her voice was soft, polite, almost embarrassed. I should have said no. The cemetery was out past the old industrial district, nearly 40 minutes away in that weather. No one went there at that hour unless they were grieving, drunk, or worse. But there was something tired in the way she sat there. Something I recognized. So I started the meter. For the first few blocks, neither of us spoke. The wipers scraped back and forth. The radio drifted in and out. Somewhere between stations, a woman's voice sang a song I knew but couldn't name. The passenger sat with her hands folded in her lap. I noticed her gloves then, cream-colored with tiny pearl buttons at the wrist. Not modern, not costume exactly, but not something you'd see on a woman waiting alone in the rain at 3 a.m. "You visiting someone?" I asked. She looked up. "At the cemetery, I mean."
"Yes, in a way."
I nodded like that answered the question. We passed a row of closed bodegas, their metal gates pulled down, their awnings sagging with rain. Usually, even at that hour, there were delivery bikes, garbage trucks, someone arguing outside a bar. But that night, the city seemed to have emptied itself around us.
You've been driving a long time.
I almost laughed. That obvious?
A little.
38 years.
That's a life.
It's a job.
Sometimes those become the same thing.
I didn't have an answer for that. She turned her face toward the window again, and in the mirror, for just a second, she looked older. Not old exactly, but worn thin, like someone seen through water. I blinked, and she was young again. I blamed the rain, the hour, my eyes.
Are you retiring?
That made me look up. Soon, I said, end of the week.
Are you glad?
I thought about lying, but there didn't seem to be much point. I don't know. She nodded like she understood. The radio cracked. The jazz vanished under a rush of static, then something else came through. An old song. Big band, maybe. A trumpet line. A woman laughing somewhere behind it. I reached for the dial.
Leave it, please.
Her voice was still gentle, but the request came quickly. Too quickly. I left it. The song played for maybe 10 seconds before dissolving back into static. She smiled faintly.
My father used to play that.
Mine hated music, I said. Said it made men sentimental.
Did you believe him?
For a while.
And now?
I watched the traffic light ahead change from green to yellow to red over an empty intersection. Now I think being sentimental is what happens when you live long enough to regret things. She was quiet after that. I don't know why I said it. I wasn't the type to talk to fairs, not about anything real, weather, traffic, ball scores. That was the rule. People told cab drivers things because they thought we didn't matter. I had spent almost 4 decades becoming furniture with a steering wheel. But with her, it felt like the conversation had started before she ever got in. A few minutes later, she asked,
Do you regret your life?
I gripped the wheel a little harder. That's a big question for a cab ride.
I'm sorry.
No, I said, it's fine. But it wasn't fine. Outside, the city had changed without my noticing. The storefronts were older now, the signs smaller. A laundromat I knew had been replaced by a tailor shop I had not seen in 20 years. Or thought I had not. I slowed down. You ever come through this neighborhood? I asked.
Yes.
Recently? She looked at me in the mirror.
No.
The meter clicked. The red numbers glowed between us. I told myself I'd taken a wrong turn. That was all. Old cabbie losing his edge. Happens to everyone eventually. Then she said,
Did you love your wife properly?
I felt my throat tighten. My wife had been gone 9 years. Cancer. Long and ugly at the end. I had not loved her properly, not in the way she deserved. I loved her in my own way, which meant working too much, coming home angry, falling asleep in my chair, saying later until later became a hospital bed. I didn't say that. Instead, I said, I loved her. The woman lowered her eyes.
That wasn't what I asked.
The cab felt colder suddenly. I checked the rear view mirror again. For a second, her seat looked empty. Then the headlights of a passing car swept across the back, and there she was, sitting perfectly still, hands folded, face pale in the glow. "You ask everyone questions like this?" I said.
No.
"Just lucky me, then." She gave a sad little smile.
Maybe.
We drove on. The rain thickened as we reached the industrial district. Warehouses rose on either side of us, black windows, loading docks, fences topped with wire. The street lights were farther apart there, and between them the road disappeared in strips of darkness. I began to feel tired in a strange way. Not sleepy, more like I was sinking backward through myself. Images came and went, a younger version of my hands on the wheel. A woman laughing in the back seat. No, not laughing. Crying. I shook my head.
Are you all right?
Fine.
You always say that.
The words passed through me like cold water. What did you say? She looked confused, or maybe sorry.
I said you look tired.
No, she hadn't. I knew she hadn't. But when I tried to hold on to the moment, it slipped away. We stopped at another red light. There were no other cars in either direction, just rain and the dull hum of the engine. She leaned slightly forward.
Do you think people know?
Know what?
When it's the last time they'll see someone.
I did not answer right away. I thought of my wife, standing in the kitchen the morning before her diagnosis, wearing my old sweater, asking me to pick up milk on the way home. I thought of my daughter at 12 years old, waiting by the window for me to come to her school recital. I thought of 1,000 small exits I had not recognized because I was always going somewhere else. No, I said finally, I don't think they do.
That seems cruel.
It is. She sat back. The light turned green, though I could not remember it changing. Northfield Cemetery appeared out of the dark just before dawn. Its stone wall ran along the road, slick with rain. Iron gates stood half open, though I knew they were usually locked at night. Fog had gathered between the trees beyond the fence. I pulled up near the entrance and stopped the meter. The fare was $38.40. She opened her purse. "Don't worry about it," I said. She paused.
You don't have to do that.
I know. For the first time, she looked directly at me, not through the mirror, not at my reflection, at me. Her eyes were darker than I expected.
Thank you.
Something in my chest twisted. I knew then that I'd seen her before, not where, not when. But I knew the angle of her face, the careful way she held herself, the sadness around her mouth, like she had learned not to ask for too much from anyone. She opened the door and stepped out into the fog. Before closing it, she leaned down.
You were kinder this time.
Then she shut the door. I sat there with both hands on the wheel. The fog moved slowly around her as she walked toward the cemetery gates. Her pale coat faded first, then her dark hair, then the small black purse in her hand. By the time she reached the iron fence, there was no one there at all. I don't remember driving home. That is the truth. One moment I was outside Northfield Cemetery before dawn. The next I was pulling into the garage behind my building with morning light leaking gray across the rooftops. I slept badly. Maybe not at all. Around noon, I went back down to clean out the cab. Retirement makes you sentimental about strange things. I wanted it tidy for whoever drove it next. I threw away coffee cups, receipts, gum wrappers. I wiped the dashboard, checked under the seats. That was when I found it. A newspaper clipping, folded twice, yellowed so badly it almost came apart in my hands. It had been wedged deep beneath the rear passenger seat. I stared at it for a second before I realized what it was. Then my stomach dropped. I knew that clipping. The headline was from 1987. Young woman found dead near Northfield Cemetery after late night cab ride. Below it was a photograph. Her photograph. Smiling in a way I had never seen during the ride. Same dark hair, same eyes, same small, careful face. Her name was Ellen Markham. She had been 27 years old. According to the article, she had left a birthday party shortly after 2 a.m. and gotten into a taxi outside Waverly and 9th. She was never seen alive again. Police had questioned several drivers. No one had been charged. I read the article 3 times as I remembered. The rain, the street lamp, a woman in the back seat asking me to slow down because she felt sick. Me, young and annoyed, snapping that I wasn't running a charity. Her sitting in the back seat, constantly looking behind us through the rear window. Then the cemetery gates. Another car parked nearby with its headlights off, waiting. I remember asking if she was sure she wanted to get out there. I remember the pause before she answered. And I remember being too tired, too impatient, too ready to go home to question it any further. So I let her out and drove away. That's the part that stayed with me. Not because I knew something terrible would happen, but because some part of me knew she was afraid. I knew I should have gone to the police when I saw the article, but by then, days had passed, and all I really had was a bad feeling and a half-remembered fare. And if I'm being honest, part of me was afraid of how it would look. So I folded the clipping in half and shoved it beneath the seat. Then I spent the next 38 years trying not to think about it. I kept the clipping. It sits in my glove compartment now. Though I don't drive anymore, I retired 3 days later, sold the medallion, and mostly stopped driving at night. But every now and then I still catch myself checking the rear view mirror. Just in case. If this one got under your skin, there are more waiting. Subscribe to the leather-bound grimoire